And yeah, and I think that leads us to the question of the role of the church in a time like this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much the church is speaking. It's hard to see the church in the middle of all this noise.
Yeah.
And so so I'm going to throw it to you. How do you think the church should rise up and lift the banner of truth in a time like this?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, it was a little laggy. So, well, I have to say, I really think that um, what I've witnessed, because I follow a lot of church accounts and a lot of pastors, what I've seen is a lot of pastors speaking up about this. Only thing about it is that, again, are they going to speak up for it just while it's popular? Are they going to speak up about it whenever it might not be the driving force of media? Are they going to still advocate and actually talk about it? So I think the first thing I want to say is that I think a good response and a good thing for the church to do during this time is to keep the conversation going. Figure out ways to keep the conversation going. Because again, like I said, it doesn't need to die out. It needs to continue. And that's one thing, because both of you and I both are graduates at Asbury University. It wasn't a conversation, one sermon out of the whole year, one chapel out of the whole year. It was a chapel that talking about racism was something that we talked about more than once each semester. And I love that about Asbury. And I think that actually kind of opened up my eyes and really helped me see how the depths of this problem. The thing about church is this, sometimes if they talk about it, it's only very minuscule, very minimal. Second of all, I think what churches need to do is to invite people who have experienced racism and know about ways in which we can go about this, and also are in Christ, because there's going to be a difference between not necessarily, but there can be a difference between a Christian approach and someone who's not a Christian and their approach. It can be different, but it doesn't have to be different. Because I said in my video, you don't have to be a Christian to see good and evil. You don't have to be. You don't have to be a Christian to be an advocate. You don't have to be a Christian to have a plan. But let me tell you, the best plan is a plan that flows from the heart of God and flows from Christ. But conversating and also having people who are educated and who have experienced racism to speak from the pulpit. Stephen Furtick had John Gray come out, I think, this Sunday. And basically, they had the way it was situated is that there was two chairs and they just talked. They talked. They had a conversation. And Stephen Furtick humbled himself, which is not always the easiest thing for him to do, even though I love Stephen Furtick. I'm joking. He humbled himself, and he didn't make it about him. He asked questions, and he let John Gray, a black African-American pastor, speak. And he opened up his ears, and he opened up his heart and his hands, and his mouth towards what John Gray had to say. So them are kind of the two things that I think that are gonna really help alleviate this issue from the church's perspective. But again, I want to just highlight this conversation cannot dissipate. It can't just go away. It needs to continue. And that's what was so great about Asbury University and our chapels, is that it was something that we talked about more than once each semester. And also having groups and avenues people can join to keep that conversation going.